In 1981, the world was shaken by an earthquake that devastated a large area of southern Italy. The towns in this area were built centuries ago and perched high on the hills for maximum protection. These ancient towns crumbled as the hills which they were built on swayed back and forth. The destruction was nearly total. The disaster struck with suddenness that entombed thousands in this rubble. There was rubble all around. As you can imagine, many of the people were overwhelmed with shock and horror and grief. But many also responded with courage and grace. They pressed their ears to the rubble and listened for the voices coming from below, trying to rescue the entombed. They listened and they heard. Hundreds were saved. Almost 40 years later, the world has been hit by a devastating pandemic. It came also with great suddenness. It has overwhelmed all of us with shock, horror, grief. Thousands have died. Many more are sick. We are all pretty much separated from our work, our families, our social life. Thus, as we celebrate Easter of 2020, there's a lot of rubble around us. But let us not forget there are so many all over the world in the midst of this Good Friday horror that have jumped into this rubble and given us powerful hints of Easter. Just think about Italy, the country that's been devastated greatly by this pandemic. In Italy, the people on the streets or in their homes, they gather in their windows at night and they sing to each other and they sing for each other, providing little experiences of Easter. We all know that so many selfless people have risked their lives for us and created Easter experiences in the midst of the rubble that overwhelms all of us. Yes, this Easter we may not be able to gather together to celebrate and share Eucharist or be with our families and share a meal. We may have to Skype or FaceTime. But let us not forget that in the midst of this Good Friday, Easter experiences are happening all around us, especially with our medical people, bringing so many back to life. Our pharmacists, our workers in the grocery stores, our transit workers, volunteers of all kinds, and many of you I'm sure I've missed. So, as we celebrate this most surreal and strange Easter, this pandemic confronts us all with a challenge. Perhaps, like the people of southern Italy, we're called not to panic, not to go into shock, not to be overwhelmed, to perhaps go to the windows and sing for each other and to each other, but to listen to the rubble. It's speaking an Easter message to us. The Easter message is that there will always be catastrophic times in our lives. Our problems will remain, our cares will remain, our sorrows will remain. But they will not destroy us. This is the message of Easter. Easter tells us we will not be overwhelmed. Easter tells us that the light always overcomes the darkness. When the apostles approached the tomb, there was an immovable stone which separated them from the one they had placed all their trust in. They came there with heavy hearts. They were burdened. And somehow the stone was rolled back. Jesus was not there. He had risen. He had conquered death. The stone could not contain him. This pandemic seems to be an immovable stone that inflicts the world, but the stone will not contain us who believe in Easter and trust that the stone will be rolled back. So Easter calls us to trust, to be patient, to wait, to listen. The rubble speaks to each one of us, and we will all hear a different message. Perhaps it calls some of us to deepen our family relationships. Perhaps it calls some to heal a relationship. Perhaps it calls some to change priorities. Perhaps it calls some of us to slow down and appreciate life more. Perhaps it calls some to reflect on the choices we make. Perhaps it calls some to come to a deeper faith. It'll be different for each one of us this year, but I really do believe that the rubble, Easter speaks to us through this rubble. And Jesus speaks to us, one who has conquered death and will conquer it again, conquer this darkness. Because Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will have life and have life to the fullest. He will never die, says Jesus. So through all this rubble, perhaps we will appreciate life and our faith more than ever before. Because it seems like for too long we've lived lives of self-sufficiency. For too long we have, in many ways, forgotten our need for God, not reflected enough on resurrection. This rubble tells us, this pandemic tells us, that we need each other. We need God. We need once again to reflect upon the foundational belief of Christianity, the resurrection. From this rubble, Easter bursts forth. Even most importantly, for all those who have died because of this epidemic. Because for the Christian, death is never the end. We believe in the resurrection, in life after death. So let us on this Easter of 2020, with all that's going on around us, thank God for the beautiful life that God has given us, for his Son who loved us and led the way, for his Son who speaks to us through this rubble and tells us, Easter is our hope. He is the resurrection, and he is the life.